Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping right into a deeply emotional story today, one that asks a pretty profound question about finding light and moral clarity when you're in the absolute darkest of times. It's called The Boy Who Trusted Allah, A Tale of Honesty. We're going to unpack a journey that is fundamentally about patience, integrity, and having absolute reliance on a higher power when the odds are just completely stacked against you. It's honestly a masterclass in holding on to your values, and I'm so excited to walk you through exactly how this incredible narrative unfolds.
So picture this scenario for a second. What would you do if you found a fortune you desperately needed, but it wasn't yours? Imagine your family is literally starving. You've got zero money, and suddenly the answer to all of your problems is just sitting right there in your hands. Do you take it to survive, or do you leave it because, well, it doesn't belong to you? This agonizing choice is exactly where our story kicks off, and it sets the stage for everything that follows.
And the gravity of this situation really hits you when you realize our main character, Yusuf, is a mere 12 years old. 12! In an age where most kids are just playing and hanging out, Yusuf carries the immense burden of caring for his sick mother. You see, his father passed away when he was very young, leaving them to live in this small, mud-brick house in a village surrounded by mountains. But despite his youth, Yusuf wakes up before the sun every single day to pray, and then he heads straight to the market to carry heavy boxes and clean for an old shopkeeper. He works incredibly hard, and get this, he never complains.
Now, despite their extreme poverty, Yusuf's mother instills a super powerful lesson in him. She tells him, Allah sees everything we do, even when no human being is watching. And listen, this isn't just some passing piece of advice. This serves as Yusuf's unbreakable moral compass throughout the entire narrative. It's basically the foundational lens through which this 12-year-old boy views his every single action. He doesn't behave well just to get a pat on the back from others. He does it because of a deeply internalized belief in divine observation.
Well, that brings us to the inciting incident of our explainer. One morning, Yusuf is walking through the busy, crowded market where he works for the old shopkeeper, Haji Karim. Out of nowhere, he spots something lying on the dirt. When he picks it up, he realizes it's a golden purse absolutely bursting with gold coins. I mean, he has never seen so much money in his entire life. This is the ultimate temptation, right? A sudden, massive fortune just appearing right at the feet of a starving, desperate boy.
So Yusuf faces this agonizing internal choice. It's a real tug-of-war. On one hand, he could keep the gold. He could instantly buy food for that empty basket at home and get the medicine his sick mother so desperately needs. But on the other hand, he could choose the spiritual path, return the gold, and honor his mother's advice. He's holding this purse super tightly, realizing he could literally solve all of his family's worldly problems in a split second. But then, his mother's voice echoes in his head.
So how does a 12-year-old respond to that kind of intense pressure? His actions are actually immediate and decisive. First step, he whispers to himself that the money just doesn't belong to him, flatly rejecting the temptation. Second, he takes the purse straight to his boss, Haji Karim, who is absolutely shocked by the sheer amount of gold. And finally, together, they spend hours searching the sweltering hot market. And keep in mind, Yusuf is doing all of this on a completely empty stomach, pushing through physical exhaustion and intense hunger just to do the right thing. After hours baking in the heat, the tension finally breaks. They hear a frantic, wealthy man named Hassan shouting about his missing purse. Haji Karim verifies the description, and Yusuf hands the gold over, completely intact. Surprised, and obviously super relieved, Hassan offers Yusuf a handful of gold coins as a reward. But Yusuf politely refuses. When asked why, Yusuf simply states that he didn't return the purse for money. This action deeply shames Hassan, who, probably for the first time in years, encounters someone motivated purely by integrity rather than wealth. This brings us to a really painful transition in Yusuf's life and introduces a core concept from the source material, sabr. Basically, sabr is patience and endurance during difficult trials. Yusuf goes home that evening to a house with absolutely no food. His mother asks if he has eaten, and to hide his sadness and spare her feelings, he smiles and says yes, even though his stomach is completely empty. But moms always know, right? She sees right through this, places her hand on his head, and gently reminds him that their patience is seen and loved by a higher power. They pray together, asking for help, relying entirely on sabr.
And yet, you know how life is. The trials just compound. The very next morning, Yusuf is dealt a devastating blow. Haji Karim pulls him aside and tells him the shop is losing money and he can no longer afford to pay him. Yusuf has just lost his only source of income. But instead of anger or despair, Yusuf's shocking reaction is to just say, Alhamdulillah, a phrase of praise and gratitude. Haji Karim is stunned. He asks why he would say that after just being fired. Yusuf calmly replies that it's because God knows what is best for them.
Even at 12, his perspective is unshakable.
That specific, mind-blowing reaction perfectly embodies our next concept, tawakkul. This means having absolute trust and reliance on God's plan. See, Yusuf doesn't just sit at home wallowing in despair. He acts on this trust. He packs a small bag with his meager remaining bread and water and sets off to travel to a nearby village in search of new work. He walks through these hot, unforgiving mountains, his feet hurting, fully exhausted. Yet he looks up at the sky and expresses his exhaustion, while simultaneously affirming his absolute trust that he is not walking alone. Guys, that is tawakkul in action.
This journey brilliantly illustrates a hard truth. Doing the right thing is rarely an instant fix. Rather, it's a compounding journey of trials. Look at the timeline. He finds the purse, refuses the reward, but instead of being blessed immediately, he loses his job and is forced to travel dangerously for work. It shows us that moral victories don't always translate immediately into material comfort. But it all leads directly to a crucial turning point. While resting in the mountains, Yusuf suddenly hears a desperate cry for help. The narrative suspense really builds here. Yusuf jumps up and sprints toward the sound behind some rocks. He finds an injured old man lying on the ground who has taken a bad fall and cannot stand. Yusuf immediately drops everything to rescue him. He actually shares his last precious bit of water with this injured stranger and helps him sit up. The old man, super grateful, asks Yusuf why a kid like him is traveling all alone in such harsh terrain. And Yusuf, open and honest as always, shares his entire life story, his sick mother, losing his job, and yes, even the incident with the golden purse. Which leads us to lean into the mystery with this pivotal question. Who exactly is the old man in the mountains? As Yusuf tells his tale, the old man listens very carefully. He asks Yusuf his name, and when Yusuf replies, the old man becomes dead quiet. He looks at the 12-year-old boy intently and asks, "Do you know who I am?" Yusuf has absolutely no idea, shaking his head. This beautifully sets us up for the ultimate twist in the narrative, completely shifting the context of all of Yusuf's suffering up to this point. And here is the incredible surprise. The old man smiles and reveals his name, Hassan. Yes, the wealthy man from the market who owned the golden purse. This was absolutely not a coincidence. Hassan explains that he had been secretly tracking Yusuf. He wanted to see exactly what kind of person Yusuf truly was when tested by hardship. Hassan watched Yusuf lose his job, watched him leave the village, and saw his unyielding patience. The entire mountain encounter was a culmination of Hassan witnessing Yusuf's true character when no one else was supposed to be watching. Which brings us to a joyful, profound turning point. Hassan is deeply moved by the boy's unwavering character. He tells Yusuf that he owns a huge, beautiful farm in the next village, filled with dates, vegetables, and animals. Hassan says he needs someone completely honest to manage it, and he wants that person to be Yusuf. Think about that. From a starving, unemployed boy lost in the mountains, Yusuf is suddenly offered an incredible position of authority and stability. He accepts the job, once again praising the divine plan. So Yusuf gets to work, and he works incredibly hard on the farm, treating the workers kindly and never cheating anyone. When he receives his first salary, he rushes straight home to buy medicine, food, and repair his mother's house. It is a deeply emotional reunion. When his mother asks where it all came from, Yusuf simply says they were helped by a higher power. This cements his mother's profound realization. When you leave something for the sake of Allah, Allah can give you something much better. He left the gold, and he gained a lifelong livelihood. Now the story skips forward many years. Yusuf has grown into a strong, highly responsible young man, faithfully managing the farm. But there is exactly one final test remaining between the two men. Hassan has grown very old and becomes severely sick. Knowing his time is coming to an end, he calls Yusuf to his side for one last, life-altering conversation. This single moment is going to prove just how deeply Yusuf's childhood choice impacted the wealthy man's heart. And this brings us to the ultimate reward. On his deathbed, Hassan tells Yusuf that he wants him to take care of the farm permanently. He is gifting the entire estate to him. Yusuf is shocked and tries to refuse, feeling like he can't possibly accept such immense wealth. But Hassan stops him. He explains that Yusuf earned this trust years ago. When Yusuf found the purse, he chose faith over gold. Because of that pure honesty, Hassan is now choosing Yusuf to inherit his legacy. Yusuf's early sacrifice literally created true, lasting wealth for his family. As we wrap up this explainer, let's distill the core lessons we can take away from Yusuf's journey. Number 1, be honest, even when the temptation is massive and no one is looking. Number 2, have sabr,
meaning maintain patience and endurance when life becomes difficult and the problems just seem endless. And number 3, trust the higher plan. Have that tawakkul, believing that what is meant for you will eventually find you, even if the road there is filled with hardship.
Which leaves us with a final, pretty provocative thought to consider today. What will you choose the next time you face an impossible test when no one is watching? Yusuf's story is a powerful reminder that true character isn't built in the easy moments. It's forged in the dark, quiet times when we think nobody understands our struggle. The next time you feel tested, remember the boy who chose integrity over gold and trust that doing the right thing always paves a path to something greater. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I truly hope this story stays with you. Catch you next time.